Guys, welcome to day 3 of shop management. We're going to deal with customer types, how to manage them, how to sell to them, kind of what we're looking at. So I kept the iPad out because I needed some notes for this one. So in the last day's lesson, you heard me talk about 4 different quadrants. So if you look in the chapter that's in the module, you'll see why they call it quadrants and how they separate. But basically, the first type, or quadrant 1, they don't want to know a lot about what's going on. They're kind of in and out. They really just want a very quick transaction. To them, this entire thing is an inconvenience. The most important thing for you to do is make it as convenient as possible. In, out, fixed right the first time. You got to make this easy for them. Quadrant 2, they want a little bit slower. They want to know what's done. They might even ask you for the old parts. Now that's a key point. We don't get rid of old parts until the service is done and we know the customer doesn't want them back. They do slow the process down. And you have to give them a certain amount of detail about what went on. Now they still want you to make the transaction easy. And they still want it fixed right the first time, okay? Now, quadrant 3 customers are your slowest. They don't seem like they're trusting you. They're going to ask you a lot of questions. They're going to be the type of customer that when you tell them, well, window regulator failed, they're going to want to know why. Could it have been this? Could it have been that? When did you find this out? What testing did you do? All right? They're going to be the type that when you're trying to move it along at the desk to get to the next customer, they want to go and tell you an entire story and give you a whole background. They might even want to pull out the phone and show you photos of their grandkids. However, they could be your best customers. Again, remember, it's all about that customer experience and customer satisfaction. How does the customer leave feeling? Okay? There's a lot of show and tell with them. Obviously, just like every other customer, fix it right the first time. If you're noticing, there's a theme. Okay. Quadrant 4. They're people-oriented, but they still want it to be quick in and out. They have questions, but they're very pointed. When's the next service? How much did that cost? How long can I expect that part to last? They appear friendly, but you got to tread a little bit carefully with them. They're the type that can get real irritable real quick. They're also the type that's not going to tell you when you've upset them. Okay? Now, here's the thing. All of these customers do have a couple things in common. There's 3 things that they have an expectation of walking in the door. Accurate diagnosis, accurate and timely repair, and a fair price. All right. One of the mistakes I see made by techs very, very often is techs will promise, yeah, I'll fix this for you tomorrow. I'll have this ready for you by 9 p.m. I'll have it ready for you by 10 a.m. tomorrow. This is only going to cost no more than $1,500. Now, what's the problem with making these promises? Well, the problem is a lot of times when a tech is making this promise, they're not right at the point of wrapping it up. They're not at the point where the service is done. They're not at a point where they have enough knowledge of what's going on. To give you an example, right now, right before Corona hit, we had Miss Jen's car, her Honda, come in the shop. Now, we know it was overheating. We know it was losing coolant. The most likely culprit in that case is the head gasket failed. The problem is there had been a head gasket done on it not that long ago. And it's overheated a couple times. So there's also a possibility of warpage of the head. We pulled out the borescope, we looked down. There's definitely some coolant in two of the cylinders. Now, there's not enough information for me to say this is 100% the diagnosis, this is what the problem is. I could give a most likely. Most likely, I believe, is that the cylinder head got tweaked from the overheating, cooling. But if I were to promise her it's only going to cost a certain dollar figure, or that she's going to get the car back in a certain time frame, knowing that when I take that head off, I might find more or less problems, then at the end of the day, I'm the one who looks unprofessional. Because even though I'm the one who's supposed to know the vehicle, I made promises without all the information. I see so many facilities do this. I see so many techs do this. Regardless of what quadrant your customer is in, the customer is going to request and require a timely and accurate diagnosis and repair. Now, that being said, I am the first one to admit sometimes the repair is out of your control. What do I mean by that? You have a customer with a 10-year-old vehicle and the head gasket kit, you order it today, it's going to take 2 weeks to get there. You can't control that. But you do have an obligation to control delivering it to the customer. And how you deliver it to the customer matters. Depending on what quadrant it is going to determine how much detail you go into. Obviously a quadrant 1 or a quadrant 4, they don't want a whole lot of detail. But a 2 and a 3, you have to be able to tell them the story. Here's why things occurred, here's what happened. You have to be able to tell, based off your interaction with your customer, what type of a customer they are. So delivering bad news is part of service writing. Delivering good news can be as well. And sometimes good news can hurt you just as much because it still makes you look unprofessional. If you swear that a head gasket failed and here you find out it was a misdiagnosis for some reason, you still took that all apart to do with Diaga to inspect the gasket. You're still putting a new gasket in. Even if you tell the customer, hey, it's not as bad as we thought, we don't have to do X, Y, and Z, the customer still might start doubting you. So I very, very briefly went through the customer types and how to manage them and communicate with them. I talked about the expectations all customers have. One of the biggest parts of your job, just while we're on this topic, is to add in the fact that you have to do customer education. Now, it sounds a little silly. What could I mean by customer education? So I remember one time when I was working, we had a customer who had bought an F-250 work truck. It was the LT trim. Yeah, not the Lariat or anything else. It was the very base model. Okay. And the customer complaint was that the air conditioning didn't work. I diagnosed it in about 3 minutes. Because as soon as I got in the truck, I looked. This truck had not been ordered with an air conditioning control. It had a compressor, but it was mainly used for the defroster. It didn't have a button to actually sit there and say turn it on and blow air conditioning out the duct. Now I don't know if this guy was a second owner or if he bought it new or what, but the bottom line was the truck didn't come with air conditioning. And so now here I am having to explain to the writer, who had to explain to the customer, that The reason why the AC wasn't working was because it wasn't an option. Now, similarly, there have been multiple stories out there where manufacturers have found little problems or little defects that upset customers, and they would have a silent campaign, meaning you brought your car in for an oil change, and they would run some type of update on the computer that they didn't even tell you about because they didn't charge you. And the only way you would know is if you really read the entire invoice and noticed the line on there that said an update was performed. And even then, it didn't tell you what the update was. I updated my own truck recently, maybe about 3 months ago, and all of a sudden I noticed it's getting a couple more miles to the gallon better. Some engineer at Fiat Chrysler figured out that by tweaking with either the fuel timing or the spark advance, they were able to get a little bit more out of the engine. And for those guys who are watching this who don't know about fuel timing or spark advance, don't stress. As long as you understand that some engineer figured out a way to get a little bit better mileage out of that engine without changing any hard parts, and that this is something they would have just done during an oil change. They would have plugged me in, put a battery charger on, let it update, and walk away. And I would have been none the wiser other than thinking, man, they must have done a really great service because I'm getting a couple miles to the gallon better. So sometimes you have to educate the customer to why things change. You're going to find one of the biggest things that you do in this field, especially starting out, especially if you go to work at a dealer. Customers come in all the time and they want to figure out how to pair their phone with their vehicle. Not kidding. It's the truth. It's one of the biggest things that an entry-level tech is now doing. So, a good service writer is going to set a customer's expectations, meaning when they go back out to the customer, so a customer has a vehicle towed in with a check engine light. You hook a scan tool up. You see it's a P0301, a misfire on cylinder number 1. You tell the writer you want the okay to do more diag. It's going to be an hour diag. A good writer isn't just going to tell the customer, oh, well, we'd like to do a diag. A good writer is going to then make sure that the tech gives them a little bit of info. Hey, we pulled a code. We believe there's a misfire on number 1. There's a lot of things that it could be. We would like to do a diag. We understand, we'll let you know before we go any further. I do want to let you know, though, this could be a very simple repair or it could be more complicated. But let us do the diag so we can find out. Setting those customer expectations so that then whatever you find as a tech, the service writer has a better opportunity to sell. That's the sign of a good writer. And that, like I said in the last class, that's where you get that teamwork element. So, things to take away from today's lesson. Remember your 4 quadrants of customers. Quadrant 1, very quick, very brief, to the point, this whole thing is an inconvenience. Quadrant 2, they seem a little distrusting. They're going to ask some questions. This still isn't their most fun thing. They're going to slow you down a little bit, but ultimately, just have your information ready for them. Quadrant 3, they're going to be your best customer. They're going to be the one that tells everybody how awesome you made the experience because you had a clean service area. You dealt with them and made them feel good. You made them feel important. You made sure that their car had a steering wheel cover, had a seat cover, had a floor cover. It was cleaner and better than when they left it. They're the customer that's going to tell everyone. They're also going to slow you down a lot because they're going to want to talk to you. They're also going to want to ask every question under the sun about why things failed and what was wrong. So have your details ready to go. Okay? Your quadrant 4s, they want to get in and out. The biggest problem with quadrant 4 is if you get them upset, if you make them unhappy, they don't ever come back to complain to you. But they'll complain to everyone else you know. They're the bad customer if you don't handle the experience well. So between yesterday's lesson and today's, the one thing I'm hoping you're getting out of this is that you're in control of a good or a bad customer. How you make the experience, how you make the customer feel. There's a big difference between saying, Mr. Smith, you got to pay me $1,200 for 4 tires. Saying, Mr. Smith, I'm here to help you. I really want to make this work. Looking out for your safety, you need 4 tires. Now, I know $1,200 costs a lot. Here's the financing options we have. By the way, I'm only recommending this because my tech noted that it's a major safety concern. You need this. I'm trying to look out for you and your family's well-being. Same sale, totally different messages. It's all in how you interact with the customer. That's why professionalism. That's why knowing how to talk. And guess what? There's going to be times, even if you're the tech, even if you're the last bay at the end of the garage, there's some point that a writer or manager is going to bring a customer out to you. If your bay looks unkept, if your mouth is spewing nothing but profanities, if you can't describe in a professional way what's going on, you just lost the sale. I know you're a tech. That's what everyone's aspiring to right now. But at the end of the day, even the techs are in sales. You leave a greasy print on a car, you hurt a sale. You forget to put floor mats in, and now I, as the manager, have to pay for that rug to get clean. You lost the sale. Your professionalism directly impacts how much you make and how much the facility makes. So know how to interact with customers. It's also going to be one of the key differences between somebody who moves up and somebody who doesn't. There's a lot of very talented technicians out there. But the people who learn how to have people skills move up quicker. Period. So a large part of managing a repair facility, a large part of owning a repair facility is knowing how to make every single customer feel like they are the most important person who walks through that door. No matter what you think of them, no matter what you think of the work that they're bringing, doesn't matter. Every customer gets to feel like they're the most important thing. Couple of quick rules. Don't ever call somebody's car a piece of junk. At least not out loud, not in public, not when they could even possibly hear. It might be $500, but it's their car. Don't ever openly criticize the fact somebody's coming only to bring coupons in or only to get the free oil change. If they overhear you down talking what they're doing, you can lose any hope of ever getting their business. And please, 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 watch what conversations you're getting involved with. I've had graduates and students get fired because they were in a conversation that looked like it was going down the road of sexual harassment or something else. Yes, that customer might be a customer, but that manager of that facility has a right to protect everybody, employees, visitors, and customers, from feeling uncomfortable. I get it. This is an industry where we're used to talking in ways that might be less than appropriate. But you can really put yourself in trouble if you do it in a modern facility, even in Independence. Because if it comes down to the end of the day, you as the tech versus the customer who's willing to pay money, you as the tech are going to be the one they're going to replace. It costs way, way too much to find another customer. And that is a coming attraction. We're going to talk about advertising and the cost of getting another customer and what gets entailed with that.